Good morning, sir. I will be reporting Chapter 13, Supervising Office Employees. So, we have Training and Development Overview. Training Focus. Training Focus, employee training and development are critical functions within human resource management aimed at enhancing both job-specific skills and overall professional growth, while training focuses on improving employees' technical abilities for specific tasks. Development centers on broader growth, including leadership, adaptability, and interpersonal skills, especially for managerial roles. So we have program types. Training programs way based on the role and purpose for operatives and skilled workers. On the job methods like job specific instruction, internships, and job rotation are common. Off the job methods, including lectures, conferences, and role playing, are typically used for supervisors and managers. Specialized management development techniques like simulations, case studies, and transactional analysis help build decision-making and leadership capabilities. And now, these are the benefits of training and development. First is it keeps skills current and prevents managerial obsolescence. And second, it improves productivity, job satisfaction, and employee morale. Third is it enhances operational efficiency and resource utilization. Fourth is it prepares a pipeline of capable future leaders. Fifth is it reduces errors, accidents, and the need for constant supervision. And last but not the least, it supports succession planning and lowers employee turnover. Now let us proceed to the employee orientation. So the purpose of orientation, it helps new hires adjust to their roles and workplace culture. Benefits include improved productivity, fewer mistakes, and higher job satisfaction. Typical orientation materials include organization charts, policies, benefits information, and safety procedures. Now we have risk of poor orientation. Improper orientation can lead to low morale, high turnover, accidents, and reduced performance. Therefore, orientation should be shared responsibility between HR and direct supervisors, ideally presented in a friendly, personalized manner. Now, these are the factors in giving effective training program development. First is identify training needs through job analysis, performance reviews, and employee feedback. Second is to set the clear objectives. And third, choose suitable training types and techniques. And fourth, deliver training and conduct follow-ups to evaluate effectiveness. Now we have training types. First training type is basic knowledge for new hires. Second is job-specific skills for enhanced performance. And third is refresher training to maintain high standards. Now let us proceed to training methods and techniques. Learning principles such as motivation, hands-on practice, and individual learning styles are key to effective training, and learning can be organized through these specific techniques and or methods. First is distributed learning, which spreads over time. Second is part learning, breaking tasks into parts. And third is transferable learning, relevant to job tasks. This information delivery methods include lectures, conferences, program instruction, video-based learning, and distance education. Simulation techniques like role-playing, case methods, and business games offer experiential learning, especially for leadership development. Newer technologies include interactive videos, virtual reality, and computer-assisted instruction. The on-the-job techniques involve real-time coaching, job rotation, and just-in-time training. Special purpose training can address specific needs like diversity or teamwork. All training must comply with legal standards and avoid discriminatory practices. Strategic benefits of employee development. Now we have 4. The first is boosting operational efficiency by improving performance, consistency, and productivity. Second is reducing turnover by offering career growth opportunities. Third is increasing employee value through upskilling and multi-skilling. Fourth is succession planning by developing future leaders. Let us proceed to understanding employee discipline. According to DiCenzo and Robbins, discipline is a condition in an organization when employees conduct themselves in accordance with the organization's rules and standards of acceptable behavior. According to Gary Dessler, discipline is a procedure that corrects or punishes subordinates because a rule or procedure has been violated. Discipline regulates employees' behavior. Acceptable behavior in a certain order line is needed by the organization from each employee. Discipline is a condition prevailing among the employee with respect to rules and regulation of an organization. It is important for supervisors to learn how to give orders and apply disciplinary measures properly. Disciplining employees by means of warning or reprimand, layoff, transfer, or discharge is one of the prerogatives which management applies as a means of maintaining and controlling authority. Now let us proceed to principles of discipline. The objective of discipline is to educate employee in the fundamental standards of behavior and performance. It is designed to encourage workers to follow rules of good conduct and procedures so that group can accomplish its objectives smoothly. Its purpose is to correct or reform the employee, not to penalize them. The disciplinary policies. Now we have 8 disciplinary policies. First is rules and regulations should be expressed in language understandable to all concerned. Second, the exact authority and responsibility for each step in discipline must be clearly defined. Third, the rules must be reasonable. There should be a basis for each rule, and wherever possible and necessary, this basis should be explained. Fourth, the rules should provide uniform penalties for their violation. Fifth, the rules should quit the requirements of the company. Sixth, the rules should establish the proper procedure for investigating the background and circumstances of each case before disciplinary action is taken. Seventh is when guilt has been established, disciplinary measures by the employee's immediate superior in consultation with the human resource management and after approval by proper authority should be promptly and consistently applied. And 8 is the discipline should be corrective and constructive, not vindictive or punitive. Now, there are 4 types of disciplinary problems. Due to the difference in religion, language, culture, living style, etc. of the employees, it creates the disciplinary problems for the management and the organization needs self-discipline from employees, but always it does not happen, and then several disciplinary problems take place. Those problems are discussed below. So first is attendance related problems. Not attending regularly is a disciplinary problem. Disciplinary problem causes when management cannot understand employees and their individual problems. Then it may cause employees to remain absent. These problems are tardiness, being lazy or not doing work, unexcused absence, failure to report, driving late for work, accidental injury, abuse of sick leave, and leaving without permission. Second, we have outside activities. Organization leads to increase its reputation through the good discipline of employees inside as well as outside the organization. Employees' discipline outside the organization is very critical. Outside disciplinary problems are unauthorized strike activities, outside criminal activities, wages, garnishment, working for competing company, and criticizing management in public. Now, on-the-job behavior related problems. Unwilling and unaccepted behavior shown by employees on the job is another disciplinary problem. Job-related problems are gross insubordination, carrying a concealed weapon, attacking others, intoxicated on the job, failure to obey safety rules, defective work, sleeping on the job, failure to report accident, loafing or what we call sitting idle, gambling, fighting, arrival at work drunk, horseplay, making too much noise in work time, and malicious destruction of organizational property. Fourth is we have dishonesty related problems. Lying and stealing is dishonesty. Stealing and selling off the company property, destruction of the company property, presenting false information of employees' record, concealing defective work, and destructive or subversive activity, etc. are result of dishonesty. Dishonest employees harm the whole environment of the organization and make the organization unsuccessful. Administrating discipline. Discipline is a must for an organizational success. Human resource management needs to encourage employees to behave in the way that makes sense of work. Human resource manager should manage discipline for effective operation of an organization. Discipline is likewise crucial for keeping up a chain of command and managing representatives who don't take after organization arrangements and techniques, routinely arrive late or not in any manner, or treat their collaborators unfairly. So, general guidelines for administrating discipline are explained. First is make disciplinary action corrective rather than punitive. Action for improving discipline should be corrective. Second, discipline should be progressive. Maintain discipline in the organization is most essential by long-term perspective. Third is follow the hot stove rule, immediate action taking rule. Fourth is allow employee to give explanation. The employee should be given an opportunity to explain. Now, there are 3 employee disciplinary problems which it causes. First is mismanagement. Poorly managed activities in an organization is management. A mismanaged operation fails to achieve its goals, is extremely wasteful, and is generally indicative of administrative procedures that are not well thought out and directed. Second is distraction. Distraction is dividing attention of an individual or group from the chosen object of attention into sources of distraction. It is caused by lack of ability to pay attention, lack of interest in the object of attention. Third is outside forces. Pressure that arises from outside is unsystematic. External forces refer to market prices for raw material supplies, consumer demand for the company's finished products, government regulation. Now there are 6 process of disciplinary actions. A disciplined workforce can meet the difficulties of the organizations and contribute to the organizational targets better. The first disciplinary action is oral warning. It provides chance to the employee to explain. The manager and employee agree about solution to prevent it from reoccurring, and the employee who violates discipline, rules and regulations of the organization is reprimanded orally in private and informal environment. Second is written warning. It is the first formal disciplinary action. Warning is given to those employees formally in written form who violates discipline. It is a formal disciplinary process where a letter sent to the employee and another copy is filled in employee's personal life. Written warning must include committee mistakes, its cause and effect, and its adverse consequences to the organization, etc. Third disciplinary action is suspension. It is a process of making the employee free from a job as punishment. It can be 1 day or several weeks or a year without pay. It makes employee rude if management cannot be able to manage indiscipline for standards of acceptable behavior, and it depends on the degree of violation. Fourth is pay cut. It is a disciplinary action in which employees' pay is cut rather than additional pay. Fifth is demotion. Reducing promotional opportunity and grade is a demotion. It's a drop from the current title or position to lower grading job. And the final disciplinary action is dismissal. Ultimate disciplinary action taken by management is called dismissal. It is the last step of disciplinary action. It covers up the theft, misconduct, drug abuse, falsification of information, unemployment application, lack of required qualification, and job elimination. It is involuntary termination of employment. Now let us proceed to effective supervision. Effective supervision has characteristics of a good supervisor, and we have 5 of these characteristics. One must be able to motivate his subordinate to work well under a spirit of close cooperation and collaboration. He should find time to listen to complaints and grievances aired by employees. Should make his employees rightly feel what they are worthy members of the organization. He should be sensitive to the needs of his employees and can enhance his quality and intelligent leadership and use it as a tool to win their help and cooperation. He must first win his loyalty so that he thinks cooperation is worth giving. Now, we have also supervisor's guide to the supervision of his employees. We have 10 of these guides. The first is always be courteous to you and to your employees as well as to the various publics your company deals with. Second, recognize the fact that questions from your employees are generally the result of their understandable lack of knowledge. Third, all such questions should be entertained with an attentive and listening ear. Fourth is never forget the feedback coming from your employees for whatever instructions given to them. Fifth, answer only questions pertaining to your individual responsibility. Sixth, always adopt an open communication policy. Seventh, always respect the dignity of the employee. Eighth, in the event some misunderstanding arise from employees, it is important to listen to both sides of the story. Ninth, if a penalty is to be imposed, such penalty should be tailored fit to the offense. And lastly, make your decision as prompt as called for by the circumstances. That is my report for today, sir. Thank you po.